globe.
A lot of different storylines on this speech where you have the America First president going in front of international economic leaders. Some have called them globalists, call them internationalists, but a lot of globalization talks going on. America First in front of that crowd. A lot of speculation about exactly what kind
Many
of
of the world leaders have been critical of the president, but he's saying the numbers speak for themselves. If you want to be critical of me, look at how good America's doing right now. Look at your 401k. Look at all these companies that are moving to America now because the tax rate has been lowered. Look at all of these individuals that are getting bonuses and extra money in their paychecks.
Well, that's here in the United States, but over there, they want to know what he wants to do for them. And he's going to talk a little bit about the United States and engagement with the world. He's going to talk about how he's committed to free and open markets, but the terms have got to be fair for the United States and reciprocal because, as you've heard on the campaign trail and now as president, he has felt that the United States has gotten the shaft regarding that left and right. He'll also call on the international community to assist the United States when it comes to ISIS and the threat of nuclear weapons in North Korea.
Yeah, there is obviously a tie between the economic and the security dynamic, which they've said he will most certainly address. Also, the meetings he's held before this, meeting with Theresa May, meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, an indication that he's re-emphasizing the strong unilateral or bilateral arrangements and relationships that the United States has. This address will certainly speak to that, but also to international economic agreements and institutions, many of which he has run against on the campaign trail here, saying they cut against America's interests. What his message will be there today will be very telling.
Yesterday, he sat down with a lot of CEOs, including the CEO of Siemens, Nestle, Adidas, HSBC, talking to them about the tax plan, how it's going to affect their employees and their companies and put more money in your pocket. The latest company, there have been 241 companies that have announced bonuses that the Democrats are calling crumbs. Home Depot is the latest one, and the president of Home Depot has said, depending on how long you've worked for our company, you're going to get a bonus anywhere between $200 and $1,000.
The president is expected to give a 15-minute speech. Okay. Anybody have any idea how long this song is?
I have no idea.
It seems to be a long song.
Some sort of
Geraldo joins us right now from Cleveland. Geraldo, as you look at the president, we're probably going to have to interrupt you in a moment because he's about to go ahead and take the stage and start speaking. What do you look for the president to say today?
Well, I think that the president is riding a wave right now. When you heard those CEOs yesterday, these were unsolicited statements, all of them saying how the president had jump-started the economies of the Western world. I think that the United States is leading the way, the world economy. I think a lot of different issues are tied into, an economy that is soaring. If you have an economy that's soaring, for instance, in Africa, if Africa begins to perk up also, there'll be less incentive for refugees to flee. It'll solve a lot of the internal problems. A rising tide does lift all boats. I think that the president now is being warmly received because all of those countries and all of those businesses are doing well since President Trump has been elected.
And when you look at his ultimate message is going to be, as the United States prospers, so do all of you, because you know what? When we're buying things and we're hiring people, it impacts the entire world.
United States is the biggest consumer of everything. So if you have the United States growing, the economy is growing at 3%, Stuart Varney says, as opposed to 2% or under 2% under the last quarters of President Obama, that's a good thing for everybody. Not only everybody in the United States, but everybody who deals with the United States. If you have this big-pocketed country that wants to do business, wants to buy stuff, there's a gin there. There's an energy that is contagious. There's optimism. Optimism is the greatest salve for disorder. If you have optimism, people aren't more likely to leave their situation, aren't likely to disrupt other people's lives. I think that this is a very, very important time for this president, and he is speaking just at the crest of this Trump boom. The stock market's been incredible. People own stocks throughout the world. It's not just the Americans that buy stocks. I mean, everything right now is on track for this boom to continue. And I think that with that, all of the objections to the president's America First policies and so forth will be alleviated, they'll be mitigated, there'll be a lot less of that kind of tension that people expected coming out of Davos. You have a president now who is like celebrating capitalism, celebrating the American way, celebrating the fact that perhaps there were too many regulations. You could shave them around the edges and still have a safe environment and working conditions for people and so forth. But the fact of the matter is that this system of enterprise is the best there is.
Geraldo, why was it important for him to go to Davos? This is the first time a sitting president has gone in the last 17 years since Bill Clinton, and we saw some video of his cabinet members sitting there on the front row. Why was this so important to the president?
I think, Ainsley, that the biggest thing that happened here, the president didn't go to schmooze. He didn't go a la John Kerry to say, hey, we're rich and isn't this cool? We get into this exclusive club and so forth. He went there to say, listen, you can have it both ways. You can have your cake and eat it too. The United States can protect our own workers. We can protect our own domestic economy and still help you. It's not protectionism. It's fair trade, really fair trade. And I think that when you have that mantra, when you have a president who is like many of the people at Davos, a very, very successful businessman, a man who has created entities that have hired people, and those people, have bought stuff and, so forth and so on. This is prosperity can also be contagious. So here he comes. He swaggers in. Yes, I may have, some rough edges. Yes, sometimes I say things that are maybe overstated or a bit impetuous about what I intend to do vis-a-vis your country and mine. But listen, if you pay attention to the bottom line, we're making money. You're making money. We're hiring people. You're hiring people. This is good stuff. I think that here you have a president is a rock star there.
We're just moments away from him taking the podium. I believe we are just literally just
introducing the president right now. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States is expected to make comments for 15 minutes. This is where there could be a walkout by a few. Let's find out. Here he is.
Thank you, Klaus, very much. It's a privilege to be here at this forum where leaders in business, science, art, diplomacy, and world affairs have gathered for many, many years to discuss how we can advance prosperity, security, and peace. I'm here today to represent the interests of the American people and to affirm America's friendship and partnership in building a better world. Like all nations represented at this great forum, America hopes for a future in which everyone can prosper and every child can grow up free from violence, poverty, and fear. Over the past year, we have made extraordinary strides in the U.S. We're lifting up forgotten communities, creating exciting new opportunities, and helping every American find their path to the American dream. The dream of a great job, a safe home, and a better life for their children. After years of stagnation, the United States is once again experiencing strong economic growth. The stock market is smashing one record after another and has added more than $7 trillion in new wealth since my election. Consumer confidence, business confidence, and manufacturing confidence are the highest they have been in many decades. Since my election, we've created 2.4 million jobs, and that number is going up very, very substantially. Small business optimism is at an all-time high. New unemployment claims are near the lowest we've seen in almost half a century. African American unemployment has reached the lowest rate ever recorded in the United States, and so has unemployment among Hispanic Americans. The world is witnessing the resurgence of a strong and prosperous America. I'm here to deliver a simple message. There has never been a better time to hire, to build, to invest, and to grow in the United States. America is open for business, and we are competitive once again. The American economy is by far the largest in the world, and we've just enacted the most significant tax cuts and reform in American history. We've massively cut taxes for the middle class and small businesses to let working families keep more of their hard-earned money. We lowered our corporate tax rate from 35% all the way down to 21%. As a result, millions of workers have received tax cut bonuses from their employers in amounts as large as $3,000. The tax cut bill is expected to raise the average American's household income by more than $4,000. The world's largest company, Apple, announced it plans to bring $245 billion in overseas profits home to America. Their total investment into the United States economy will be more than $350 billion over the next 5 years. Now is the perfect time to bring your business, your jobs, and your investments to the United States. This is especially true because we have undertaken the most extensive regulatory reduction ever conceived. Regulation is stealth taxation. The U.S., like many other countries, unelected bureaucrats, and we have, believe me, we have them all over the place, and they've imposed crushing and anti-business and anti-worker regulations on our citizens with no vote, no legislative debate, and no real accountability. In America, those days are over. I pledged to eliminate 2 unnecessary regulations for every 1 new regulation. We have succeeded beyond our highest expectations. Instead of 2 for 1, we have cut 22 burdensome regulations for every 1 new rule. We are freeing our businesses and workers so they can thrive and flourish as never before. We are creating an environment that attracts capital, invites investment, and rewards production. America is the place to do business. So come to America where you can innovate, create, and build. I believe in America. As President of the United States, I will always put America first, just like the leaders of other countries should put their country first also. But America first does not mean America alone. When the United States grows, so does the world. American prosperity has created countless jobs all around the globe, and the drive for excellence, creativity, and innovation in the U.S. has led to important discoveries that help people everywhere live more prosperous and far healthier lives. As the United States pursues domestic reforms to unleash jobs and growth, we are also working to reform the international trading system so that it promotes broadly shared prosperity and rewards to those who play by the rules. We cannot have free and open trade if some countries exploit the system at the expense of others. We support free trade, but it needs to be fair and it needs to be reciprocal, because in the end, unfair trade undermines us all. The United States will no longer turn a blind eye to unfair economic practices, including massive intellectual property theft, industrial subsidies, and pervasive state-led economic planning. These and other predatory behaviors are distorting the global markets and harming businesses and workers, not just in the U.S., but around the globe. Just like we expect the leaders of other countries to protect their interests, as President of the United States, I will always protect the interests of our country, our companies, and our workers. We will enforce our trade laws and restore integrity to our trading system. Only by insisting on fair and reciprocal trade can we create a system that works not just for the U.S., but for all nations. As I have said, the United States is prepared to negotiate mutually beneficial bilateral trade agreements with all countries. This will include the countries in TPP, which are very important. We have agreements with several of them already. We would consider negotiating with the rest, either individually or perhaps as a group, if it is in the interests of all. My administration is also taking swift action in other ways to restore American confidence and independence. We are lifting self-imposed restrictions on energy production to provide affordable power to our citizens and businesses and to promote energy security for our friends all around the world. No country should be held hostage to a single provider of energy. America is roaring back, and now is the time to invest in the future of America. We have dramatically cut taxes to make America competitive. We are eliminating burdensome regulations at a record pace. We are reforming the bureaucracy to make it lean, responsive, and accountable, and we are ensuring our laws are enforced fairly. We have the best colleges and universities in the world, and we have the best workers in the world. Energy is abundant and affordable. There has never been a better time to do business in America. We are also making historic investments in the American military because we cannot have prosperity without security. To make the world safer from rogue regimes, terrorism, and revisionist powers, we are asking our friends and allies to invest in their own defenses and to meet their financial obligations. Our common security requires everyone to contribute their fair share. My administration is proud to have led historic efforts at the United Nations Security Council and all around the world to unite all civilized nations in our campaign of maximum pressure to denuke the Korean Peninsula. We continue to call on partners to confront Iran's support for terrorists and block Iran's path to a nuclear weapon. We're also working with allies and partners to destroy jihadist terrorist organizations such as ISIS, and very successfully so. The United States is leading a very broad coalition to deny terrorists control of their territory and populations, to cut off their funding, and to discredit their wicked ideology. I am pleased to report that the coalition to defeat ISIS has retaken almost 100% of the territory once held by these killers in Iraq and Syria. There is still more fighting and work to be done and to consolidate our gains. We are committed to ensuring that Afghanistan never again becomes a safe haven for terrorists who want to commit mass murder to our civilian populations. I want to thank those nations represented here today that have joined in these crucial efforts. You are not just securing your own citizens, but saving lives and restoring hope for millions and millions of people. When it comes to terrorism, we will do whatever is necessary to protect our nation. We will defend our citizens and our borders. We are also securing our immigration system as a matter of both national and economic security. America is a cutting-edge economy, but our immigration system is stuck in the past. We must replace our current system of extended family chain migration with a merit-based system of admissions that selects new arrivals based on their ability to contribute to our economy, to support themselves financially, and to strengthen our country. In rebuilding America, we are also fully committed to developing our workforce. We are lifting people from dependence to independence because we know the single best anti-poverty program is a very simple and very beautiful paycheck. To be successful, it is not enough to invest in our economy. We must invest in our people. When people are forgotten, the world becomes fractured. Only by hearing and responding to the voices of the forgotten can we create a bright future that is truly shared by all. The nation's greatness is more than the sum of its production. A nation's greatness is the sum of its citizens, the values, pride, love, devotion, and character of the people who call that nation home. From my first international G7 summit to the G20, to the UN General Assembly, to APEC, to the World Trade Organization, and today at the World Economic Forum, my administration has not only been present, but has driven our message that we are all stronger when free, sovereign nations cooperate toward shared goals, and they cooperate toward shared dreams. Represented in this room are some of the remarkable citizens from all over the world. You are national leaders, business titans, industry giants, and many of the brightest minds in many fields. Each of you has the power to change hearts, transform lives, and shape your country's destinies. With this power comes an obligation, however, a duty of loyalty to the people, workers, and customers who have made you who you are. So together, let us resolve to use our power, our resources, and our voices, not just for ourselves, but for our people, to lift their burdens, to raise their hopes, and to empower their dreams, to protect their families, their communities, their histories, and their futures. That's what we're doing in America, and the results are totally unmistakable. It's why new businesses and investment are flooding in. It's why our unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in so many decades. It's why America's future has never been brighter. Today, I am inviting all of you to become part of this incredible future we are building together. Thank you to our hosts. Thank you to the leaders and innovators in the audience. But most importantly, thank you to all of the hardworking men and women who do their duty each and every day, making this a better world for everyone. Together, let us send our love and our gratitude to make them, because they really make our countries run. They make our countries great. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Okay, we were waiting for the president to deliver his 15-minute speech, and he did just that. This was the forum where we had heard yesterday and the day before that there could be some members in attendance who might actually stand up and exit as a protest over alleged comments the president made regarding that closed-door immigration meeting a while back. To the best of the producer's knowledge, they didn't see anybody stand up. They didn't hear a disturbance. So it looks as if people sat to go ahead and listen. Now, apparently, they're going to answer some questions. So listen to Klaus ask the president.
One or two questions. And my first question is, why is the tax reform, why has it been of such a high priority for your administration?
Well, first of all, Klaus, I want to congratulate you. This is an incredible group of people. We had dinner last night with about 15 leaders of industry, none of whom I knew, but all of whom I've read about for years, and it was truly an incredible group. But I think I have 15 new friends. So this has been really great what you've done in putting it together, the Economic Forum. The tax reform was a dream of a lot of people over many years, but they weren't able to get it done. Many people tried. And Ronald Reagan was really the last to make a meaningful cut and reform. And ours is cutting and reforming. we emphasize cut, but the reform is probably almost as important. We've wanted to do it. It is very tough politically to do it. Hard to believe that would be, but it is very, very tough. That's why it hasn't been done in close to 40 years. And once we got it going, it was going. And the big, and I wouldn't say a total surprise, but one of the big things that happened and took place is AT&T and some others came out very early and they said they were going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to people that work for their companies. And you have 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 people working for these companies. And all of a sudden it became like a big waterfall, a big, beautiful waterfall, where so many companies are doing it. And even today they just announced many more. But every day they announce more and more. And now it's a fight for who's going to give the most. It started at 1,000. Now we have them up to 3,000. This is something that we didn't anticipate. Oftentimes in business, things happen that you don't anticipate. Usually that's a bad thing. But this was a good thing. This came out of nowhere. Nobody ever thought of this as a possibility even. It wasn't in the equation. We waited, we said, wait till February 1st when the checks start coming in. And people, Klaus, have a lot more money in their paycheck. Because it's not just a little money. There's a lot of money for people making a living doing whatever they may be doing. And we really thought February 1st it was going to kick in and everybody was going to be, well, we haven't even gotten there yet. And it's kicked in, and it's had an incredible impact on the stock market and the stock prices. We've set 84 records since my election, record stock market prices, meaning we hit new highs 84 different times out of a one-year period. And that's a great thing. And in all fairness, that was done before we passed the tax cuts and tax reform. So what happened is really something special. Then, as you know, and as I just said, Apple came in with $350 billion. And I tell you, I spoke with Tim Cook. I said, Tim, I will never consider this whole great run that we've made complete until you start building plants in the U.S. And I will tell you, this moved up very substantially. But when I heard 350, I thought they were talking $350 million. And by the way, that's a nice sized plant. Not the greatest, but not bad. And they said, no, sir, it's $350 billion. I said, that is something. Well, we have tremendous amounts of money, including my newfound friends from last night, great companies. They're all investing. When one of the gentlemen said he's putting in $2 billion because of the tax cuts, I said to myself, wow, he's actually the cheap one in the group because they're putting in massive numbers of billions of dollars. So I think you have a brand new United States. You have a United States where people from all over the world are looking to come in and invest. And there's just nothing like what's happening. And I just want to finish by, I have a group of people that have been so outside. I have a whole lot of them, so I won't introduce because then I'll insult at least half of them. But I've had a group of people that work so hard on this and other things. And we're really we had a great first year, so successful in so many different ways. And there's a tremendous spirit when you look at all of the different charts and polls, and you see, as an example, African-American unemployment at the historic low. It's never had a period of time like this. Same with Hispanic. Women at a 17-year low. It's very heartwarming to see, but there's a tremendous spirit in the United States. I would say it's a spirit like I have never witnessed before. I've been here for a while. I have never witnessed the spirit that our country has right now. So I just want to thank you all and all of those that are pouring billions of dollars into our country or $10 into our country. We thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. President, I will ask you maybe a personal question, but before doing so, I just
sounds very interesting.
Acknowledge.
I didn't know about this one.
I would like to acknowledge the strong presence of your cabinet members.
Yes.
Who tremendously contributed to the discussions.
Good.
The last
I would like to do that. That's very good.
Yeah. Now,
Stephen, Wilbur, Gary, Robert, even my general and my various other generals, you know, we're making our military protection a little bit better for us too. So thank you very much. Does everybody understand that? I think so. Thank you all for being here.
Now, my maybe personal question would be, what experience from your past have been most useful in preparing you for the presidency?
Well, being a businessman has been a great experience for me. I've loved it. I've always loved business. I've always been good at building things, and I've always been very successful at making money. I'd buy things that would fail, that would be failures, and I'd turn them around and try and get them for the right price, and then I'd turn them around and make them successful. And I've been good at it, and that takes a certain ability. And, you know, historically, I guess there's never really been a businessman or business person elected president. It's always been a general or a politician. Throughout history, it's always been a general. You had to be a general, but mostly it was politicians. You never have a businessman. And then, in all fairness, I was saying to Klaus last night, had the opposing party to me won, some of whom you backed, some of the people in the room, instead of being up almost 50%, the stock market is up since my election almost 50%. Rather than that, I believe the stock market from that level, the initial level, would have been down close to 50%. That's where we were heading. I really believe that. Because they were going to put on massive new regulations. You couldn't breathe. It was choking our country to death. And I was able to see that, Klaus, as a business person. The other thing is I've always seemed to get, for whatever reason, a disproportionate amount of press or media. And throughout my whole life, somebody will explain someday why, but I've always gotten a lot. And as a businessman, I was always treated really well by the press. You know, the numbers speak and things happen, but I've always really had a very good press. And it wasn't until I became a politician that I realized how nasty, how mean, how vicious, and how fake the press can be as the cameras start going off in the background. But overall, I mean, the bottom line, somebody said, well, they couldn't have been that bad because here we are, we're president, and I think we're doing a really great job with my team. I have a team of just tremendous people, and I think we're doing a very special job, and I really believe it was time, and it was time to do that job, because I don't think the United States would have done very well if it went through 4 or 8 more years of regulation and really a very anti-business group of people. We have a very pro-business group. We have regulations cut to a level. In the history of our country, Klaus, this was reported recently, in 1 year we've cut more regulations in my administration than any other administration in 4, 8, or 16 years in the one case. We've cut more regulations in 1 year, and we have a ways to go. I mean, we're probably 50% done, and we're going to have regulation. There's nothing wrong with rules and regulations. You need them. But we've cut more than any administration ever in the history of our country, and we still have a ways to go. So I think between that and the tremendous tax cuts, we've really done something. And one other thing I said, and I saw it last night with some of the leaders and the business people, I think I've been a cheerleader for our country. And everybody representing a company or a country has to be a cheerleader, or no matter what you do, it's just not going to work. And the reason I'm a cheerleader is because it's easy, because I love our country, and I think we're just doing really well. And we look forward to seeing you in America, special place, and where you are is a special place also. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for being with us. The World Economic Forum community who is assembled here will be certainly, and I quote you from the last piece of your remarks, will be certainly be among the hard-working men and women who do their duty each and every day, making this world a better place for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
That is the President of the United States speaking at Davos. He gave the closing speech. The man on his right is Klaus Schwab. He is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. He also is a German engineer and an economist.
Indeed. He got polite applause from the audience there. They also, there were some groans when he mentioned fake news and some applause as well. The president's ultimate message, though, was, as you can see on the banner, I will always put America first. And really what he was saying is, you know, the better the United States does, the better all of you around the world do. And you know what? America's open for business. And he talked about how the stock market was doing great and how businesses were thriving under him, how much regulation he has cut. The tax cut has already gone to work. And the stock market, at the end, he said it was close to 50% up. I don't know if it's that high, but it's in the, I think, in the 40s something.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. He ended right where he started, which is, I'm here to represent the American people. Oftentimes at these international forums, you hear about global citizens and economic justice and the global community. In fact, Ross even mentioned that at the end. The president time and time again said it comes back to the citizens of my country and representing them the right way. And when I do that well, just like you should focus on your citizens, everyone can be better off. We don't live in a future world where there aren't borders. This was a capitalist and a businessman and a nationalist.
Smart of him to go. Smart of him to go because the CEOs of companies, they go to this event. Everyone that represents the economic world is usually there. Someone representing banks, companies.
It's very glamorous.
So, exactly. If he wants to go and rub shoulders with these individuals and tell them we're open for business, come to America, it's a wonderful opportunity for him to do that.
Geraldo Rivera is joining us. He was interrupted by the president. Apologies, Geraldo. One of the things that the president did...
I can always be interrupted by the president.
One of the other things he talked about was our immigration system. And he talked about how it was stuck in the past, and he said we got to do something about chain migration, etc. Your observation about what the president said?
Well, obviously making economic sense, but I just want to very briefly say this is the president that everyone should love. I met him in 1976. He took the rundown, decrepit Hotel Commodore on 42nd Street in New York. He remade it into a Grand Hyatt. He saved the whole of the 42nd Street neighborhood by his actions. 20 years after he bought it, he sold it for $143 million profit. So that's the Trump that everybody loves. If it's the economy stupid, then this is the guy who is really delivering. Now, in terms of immigration, obviously, the president is correct. Each country should serve its own interests. An easy thing the president can do is that all those graduate students, all those kids that come to Stanford and they get these degrees or they learn all this computer stuff, let them stay, give them visas, be very generous in terms of keeping these young innovators in the country. I think that is a very, very good thing to do. In terms of the current debate, if that, Steve, is what you're asking, what I feel about this compromise that appears now to be moving in the right direction, I say great. For the first time, you have the Democrats saying that they'll go along with a wall that the president made central to his campaign, a southern border wall. And on the other hand, you have the Republicans saying that the Dreamers and even an expanded class of immigrants can be legalized and given a path to citizenship. So I think there is not only, so in the context of this booming economy, and in the context of President Trump's strength as a business person, you have the, what seems to me, significant steps toward a compromise that I swear to God, if they wanted to, they could make it today, Steve.
So, Geraldo, we've heard from the far left, Elizabeth Warren saying, nope, we're Dreamers only. You're going to see a lot of conservatives saying this amounts to amnesty. You're talking about citizenship for illegals. Do you think the president's shooting for the middle here? Because there hasn't been bipartisan support for any of his plans. They've been resisting him. So where does the sweet spot on an immigration deal?
I don't know, Major, exactly what the sweet spot is, but I can tell you they are heading in the right direction. For example, if you have, and Luis Gutierrez, the fiery Illinois congressman, and Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader, they said it last Friday. They can't take it back now. They have been now, for the first time on the record, in favor of this trust fund, $25 billion to build the southern border wall. Now they're also saying, as I mentioned, the Dreamers and people like them. I think that this is, if you take all the noise away, take, all these other issues away, and this one doesn't like this, and this doesn't like that, and the Tea Party's not going along with that, and the progressive far left's not going to. Forget about the edges. In the middle, you have an ability to have an army of compromise centrists who want the best thing for the country and the best thing for these immigrants. When President Reagan in 1986 had immigration reform, a lot of people feel he got screwed because after he legalized a lot of people that were in the country in 1986, more came in. So what happens now? Now President Trump sees the compassion of Reagan, but the failure of Reagan. He says, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be compassionate to the undocumented immigrants who are here, but I am also going to get my wall so you don't have to continually revisit this situation, this problem every decade or so, Pete.
There were a lot of loopholes with what Ronald Reagan tried to do, and this administration apparently is trying to plug them all up. Geraldo, thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, you too.
All right. He called you Major at one point.
Well, I appreciate that.
No?
Yeah, he usually does. Thank you, sir.
You deserve that.
All right. 20 minutes now before the top of the hour. Moments ago, President Trump sharing his America First agenda with the world. Diamond and Silk will weigh in on it, as will Steve Hilton. We got a busy 20 hours. Put down the remote. You're watching Fox and Friends.
I'm here to deliver a simple message. There has never been a better time to hire, to build, to invest, and to grow in the United States. America is open for business, and we are competitive once again. The American economy is by far the largest in the world.
There you go. The president, by the way, within the half hour, he will probably be leaving Davos en route to Zurich and then back to Washington, D.C.
Give that speech and get out of the international swamp as quick as you can.
Let's bring our social media stars and Trump supporters, Diamond and Silk. Good morning, ladies.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. What was your did you listen to his speech, and what was your reaction if you did?
Well, you know what? What we love is the fact that he is reverenced, respected, and admired across the world. People just love this man. Listen, he's a negotiator, an ultimate deal maker. Yeah. And the thing about him is he's bringing back economic opportunity and growth. He wants America to prosper, and he's letting the world know that. So I thought his speech was phenomenal.
It was amazing. And another point that I love is the fact that he's letting people know and understand that we are the United States, not the divided states. It's united we stand and divided we fall. And if people would stop resisting prosperity, we can move this country further really fast.
Go ahead.
One of the things that they do here at the Davos event is they talk about trade deals around the world because they got all these big shots from around the world there. And the president said, hey, look, we're for fair trade deals, Diamond and Silk, but the unfair ones, come on, help us out here.
That's right.
Absolutely. You know, when we look under the Obama administration, Obama went around apologizing and selling American people down the drain by signing in these trade deals. We want fair. We want to make sure that we have economic opportunities over here for Americans, and Americans have jobs too, because we have to live too. So when we see our president around the world over there making these deals, and people want to spend money in America, bring jobs to America, bring billions of dollars back to Americans, that's a plus for us, baby.
That's right.
Our president is doing a phenomenal job.
Plus for us. Well, one of the messages in his speech was immigration policy is a form of national and economic security. So he's referring to our immigration situation here, which we all know is broken, our border not secure, a lot of immigration policies out of control. You saw what the White House released. It did include a path to citizenship for up to 1.8 million DACA recipients or those like that. Is that the kind of trade or deal that you, as supporters of the president, would be willing to support?
Okay, now I want everybody to calm down.
Yes.
Just realize this here. When you are negotiating, you got to both come to the table, okay? Now, when it comes to what they're proposing, you have to give a little to get a lot.
That's right.
Okay? So if we have to give up a little, and I think that number can be adjusted to get the wall funded, to end chain migration and this lottery system.
That's right.
Hey, that's making a deal.
Yes.
It can't be one-sided.
Yes.
We have to be able to compromise. Listen, I believe that these are DACA adults. I am not for anybody jumping ahead of anybody in line. However, if this is what it's going to take for people not to pour into our borders, not to overstay visas, then sometimes we have to do what we have to do. But I don't want everybody to jump the gun. Don't get overexcited. Calm down. Remember, you are dealing with an experienced negotiator. Our president got this.
That's right.
Do you think the Democrats will be on board with this? I know Republicans, like you're saying, Republicans will say, all right, we're going to keep the DACA kids in this country. We'll try to make it fair. But do you think that the Democrats are going to say, we'll give you $25 billion for the wall and border security?
Well, if they don't, they're going to be the destruction of their own demise.
That's right.
Period.
Yes.
The deal is, please do not expect for us to give you everything and we don't get nothing in return. If we don't secure our border, we're going to keep creating the same problem over and over. These people don't realize you can't overstay a visa. You can't cross our borders illegally. This stuff is a crime, and this is what's happening. People have sued this problem and making people think it's okay. It's not okay. So either the Democrats come to the table and be willing to deal, it will be no deal.
That's right.
Well, what about the Republicans in Congress? Do you think they're going to go along with it? Because there are a lot of members of the Republican right wing that are going to go, this is a form of amnesty. We can't do that.
Okay, then you have to negotiate.
That's right.
Okay, so if you come to the table and you negotiate, well, okay, we will take this, but we won't take that. Okay, if you are going to grant them some type of citizenship, have it where they can't vote for some years, because we all know that the Democrats is trying to use this as a tool for them to win an election. I mean, put some measure in place. Bring back the e-verifying system.
That's right.
Put measures in place that's going to protect everybody involved, but everybody's going to have to come to the table.
That's right.
All right, Diamond and Silk joining us from their headquarters. By the way, ladies, what do Diamond and Silk do on the weekend?
Work.
Investigate.
Yes.
Research.
Yes.
I got you. All right.
Always
a pleasure, lady.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
You can't have Diamond without Silk, and you can't have Silk without Diamond.
It's a duo.
They're a team. All right, Steve Hilton, our friend Steve Hilton's here to react to President Trump's speech. That's coming up next.
But first, let's check in with our